My name is Barbara Iverson. I'll be your moderator today. I'm an expert in interpersonal skills based here in Berlin. In addition to the International Sign Language interpretation as part of our dialogue today, all of us appearing on camera are giving a short description of ourselves for those participating who are visually impaired. I am a white woman with medium-length curly blonde hair wearing a black shirt and red lipstick. So with this series, we want to continue challenging the civil society sector with inspiring conversations based on the constant change that digitalization brings to our societies. Each discussion will be a call to action for CSOs to take a more active role in shaping our digital future. And today, like I said before, we're putting the spotlight on equality tech, empowering women and girls through technology. But before we hear from the panelists, I am going to turn it over to Suzanne Kramer, and she is going to give you a message. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Barb. Welcome, everybody. We're very happy to have you here with us today. My name is Suzanne, as Barb said, and I'm the head of operations here at the International Civil Society Center. Today, I am speaking from Stuttgart in Germany. I'm a white woman. I have short brownish hair. I wear glasses and a white turtleneck sweater. As a center, we believe that one of the roles is to bring international civil society sector innovations into focus. And that we do with the digital dialogues, but also in other ways, such as, for instance, our innovation reports. There's a significant opportunity for organizations to benefit from more from the lessons others have learned or are in the process of addressing, particularly in the context of complex, common external challenges. Our innovation reports that we have been developing almost annually over the past years aim to support this. And this year's report is on civil society innovation and digital power shift. And we're looking at digitalization as a driver for civil society innovation and impact. And to give you a quick preview of that, I've brought you a few pictures here. And in this year's report, we've collected 8 inspiring case studies from a range of organizations on the spectrum of digital equity, the generation and management of data lakes, and frontier technologies. The case studies from the international civil society organizations show how their approaches represent inclusive innovation and the different power dynamics they're addressing and they're capitalizing on in order to achieve more digital equity. We've also analyzed those case studies and developed 8 key recommendations that CSOs and other innovators, movers, shakers in the civil society that are working to advance digital and data equity can take away. To give you a very brief sort of like sneak preview of what you can expect, I quite like to share with you 2 ideas here. Once we've heard from Code for Pakistan, who have developed a program which enables young IT professionals to work alongside government institutions to develop tech solutions that are desperately needed by these under-resourced departments. The fellowship program provides the fellows with training and mentorship from industry experts and also exposes them to the inner workings of government. At the same time, the fellowship program also introduces the government, on the other hand, the government offices, to human-centered design concepts. The benefit then is twofold. Code for Pakistan enables people to make changes in government while also closing service delivery gaps. Another one is the Rainforest Alert, a joint project by Rainforest Foundation US and the Organization of the Indigenous People of the Eastern Amazon. In a study, the Rainforest Foundation showed that indigenous communities in the Peruvian Amazon that have direct access to satellite-based deforestation alerts are well placed to investigate and to act on the alerts that they receive when they're trained. At the same time, this also democratizes data management, representation, insights, and analysis for community action to reduce deforestation very actively there in the region. And of course, and now here we go, we've heard from Plan International's Equality Tech, and we are very thrilled to be able to have their work presented here to us today and kick off the innovation report and to discuss Plan's approach jointly and together with Toolkit iSkills. So I very much hope you get inspired by the real life examples of the new approaches as I was when I was able to read through all the case studies. The case studies will be available as documents, and we've also produced some podcasts with colleagues driving innovation and digital power shift in their respective organizations. You can find out more about the report on the center's website, and you can help us spread the word after the event. So thank you very much for now. Enjoy the conversation. And now back over to you, Barb, and to Equality Tech.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. There we are. All right, so let's get going. And we have two panelists with us today. As Suzanne mentioned, one is from Plan International, and that's Jessica Herrera. She's joining us from Panama. And Anne Waweru from Toolkit iSkills is joining us from Kenya. We are looking forward to hearing from them. As you saw, if you were here early, the agenda for today is that we'll have short introductions, around 5 minutes each from each of the women, talking about what their organizations are currently doing. And then there will be time for the two of them, with me involved, of course, to have a discussion together. And then after that, we will have time for the questions that many of you submitted at the time of registration, and we are so grateful for that. The rest of you, you are very welcome, as I said, to place questions into the chat. We don't know if we'll get to all of them, but we'll do our very best. All right, so Jessica, would you please turn on your camera and unmute yourself and take about 5 minutes to share with us what Plan International is doing on this topic and your work in particular.
Thank you so much, Barb. While I introduce myself, Ryan, can you help me by projecting the slides that I'll be using for this introduction? So I am Jessica Herrera, as Barb was mentioning. I am connecting from Panama. I'm part of Plan International's Global Digital and Innovation team as the Equality Tech Program Lead. I coordinate girl and women engagement, digital empowerment, and advocacy activities to raise awareness of bias in technology and advance gender equality in the tech sector. I am a Latina woman. I have dark wavy hair, and I'm wearing a red blouse with blue stripes. Ryan, can you move to the next slide? So before I dive into the digital empowerment agenda we're working on and equality tech, I just wanted to briefly just introduce who we are as Plan International. Plan International is a development and humanitarian organization that advances children's rights and equality for girls across 70 to 75 countries in Asia Pacific, the Americas, Africa, and Europe. All our work focuses on enabling vulnerable and excluded children and young people to learn, lead, decide, and thrive. And particularly in this space of equality tech, we believe that technology can be a powerful tool for girls' voices to become even louder and reach even further. So promoting girls' digital literacy and closing the digital gender gap will play a very important role in achieving gender equality and promoting the rights of girls and women worldwide. Ryan, next slide, please. So when it comes to the digital empowerment of girls, and I'm starting with this because these were the 5 different components that drove us to start the Equality Tech project. It started with building a world in which girls have the tools and the power to shape their own futures and influence decision-making and policy processes at local and global levels. And we thought these 5 different components as part of the digital empowerment agenda were going to be the driving force on the different priority areas that we would be accomplishing with equality tech. So the first one, access to safe online spaces. Online spaces and digital tools allow women and girls to organize more efficiently and be able to join global action for common causes they're passionate about, such as fighting harmful gender stereotypes. So being able to have workshops, teacher training, cybersecurity classes, and similar initiatives are important to provide girls and boys with the knowledge and skills they need to stay safe online. Online safety becomes a barrier that silences girls and young women. It becomes a barrier like shies them away, or they feel like they are not able to participate because this environment becomes so hostile. So being able to create new safe online spaces, but even for them to have the tools to be able to navigate the current environment is super important as the first area. The second one is training and skills development. So meeting girls and young women where they are to provide them the opportunity to gain the technical and digital skills to succeed. But it's not just in terms of succeeding in the labor market, but it also providing girls with training on how to effectively take advantage of technology for activism, for awareness raising and campaigning, while also teaching girls about, issues concerning safety can be a really powerful tool for enabling more girls to become agents of change in this space and leaders in their communities. The third one is challenging gender barriers, social norms, and gender-based discrimination. It is essential that all relevant stakeholders, family, government, civil society, and the private sector work together to remove barriers that currently prevent women and girls from accessing and using technology on equal basis as men and boys. There must be a concerted effort to challenge these barriers and be able to work together with girls so they are empowered to become advocates and innovators and creators on technology. Only this way, we're able to create more technology that reflects their perspectives, their needs, and they're able to use it in a very unique way that girls and women do. And for the last two, these two go hand in hand. Actions promoting girls' digital empowerment should always be guided by the principle of engaging girls and women as active, capable partners in our work, not merely passive recipients or targets of our interventions. Rather than making assumptions about what girls want and need from technology, it is important to work together with them to strengthen and develop their use and creations of digital tools. And the last one is, with this digital empowerment, I think it's important for us working in this space to simply create platform spaces, give them the tools, and clear the path and open the door to let girls be the change agents and leaders and have that opportunity to mentor others and create a movement in this space. So moving on to the next slide, please. So with this in mind, and these 5 very strong core pillars, we created Equality Tech. So Equality Tech was designed as part of the digital empowerment agenda, and it was defined to harness the power of technology to challenge harmful norms and stereotypes, and not just towards more inclusive behaviors. So basically, it was important to recognize the role of women and girls, not just as users and consumers of technology, but as developers, as advocates and creators as well. So we designed a girl-centered methodology where girls could have opportunity to reflect on their own lives, including their perspectives, their dreams, their aspirations, their barriers, everything that was related to technology, as well as the inequities or discrimination they would be facing. So regardless if the issue were to appear gender neutral, it was necessary to consider how girls and women would be affected and how was this impacting their lives. So beyond this reflection, it was also important for us to provide a space for ideation, to reflect on the issues, but also how they could be providing solutions and ideas to overcome these. So the methodology was a reflection space and an ideation space intended to instill confidence and agency in girls by promoting their leadership in the design of digital solutions to issues that directly affect them. We piloted this methodology in over 15 workshops, getting together girls from 12 countries in Latin America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. It was a group of about 100 girls coming together in workshops in English and Spanish. And one of the results is the idea that you see now in the screen, which is My Beauty Lies Beneath. It was repurposing the idea of a beauty filter, but actually focusing on your capacities of who you are, looking beyond the beauty in the screen and encouraging other girls and young women to still use technology, but in a different way.
Jessica, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap this up because we're over our 7-minute mark.
Okay. Yeah. No. I'm on my last thoughts.
Okay.
And with this methodology, and the next slide, and I'll wrap it up. With this methodology, beyond the getting together of the girls through the workshops, I think the biggest realization was that girls and young women play a key role at every stage of the process, and they were able to conduct workshops themselves, start a movement where they would mentor others, they would contextualize everything that they learned in these workshops and be able to start a movement that we could be learning throughout the process to be able to provide online spaces and frameworks for them to continue this experimental learning. And passing it on to you, Barb.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. Lovely to see all of that. And so you can go ahead and turn off your camera, and Anne, I will ask you to turn yours on and share with us. There you are. Great to see you. Share with us about what Toolkit's iSkills is doing.
Thank you very much. My name is Anne from Toolkit iSkills. Today I wear a flower dress and a white blazer. I joined Toolkit iSkills in 2018 as the head of the digital skills pillar to implement the online training and deployment portal, which Toolkit developed after the award from the Habitat for Humanity. And this was in recognition to Toolkit iSkills innovation in the construction sector. So Toolkit is a leader in empowering Africa with skilled, confident, and productive youth. And Toolkit iSkills is a Kenyan-based social enterprise founded in 2014, and the goal of disrupting youth unemployment. And Toolkit iSkills, we train vulnerable youth and women, and we certify their skills with regulatory bodies, and then we link them to the employment and entrepreneurship. So the Toolkit iSkills digital skills pillar supports 5 other pillars. They are the online jobs pillar, the construction sector skills pillar, the organic farming skills, the consultancy and research and renewable energy sector skills pillar. And through this, we have the online training and deployment portal where we conduct online training, and we are currently supporting over 1,000 young people from 11 most marginalized counties in Kenya. And what we are doing for the young women, I would summarize it in 3 areas. And then we are going to ask for Rian to show us a video for us to hear a story from one of them, just to feel just to hear from them what the impact of what they have gained from Toolkit. So the first area we are empowering young women is through the refugees. So we have in September, and currently starting from September, we have electricians that are undergoing solar skills training. We all know that solar skills is an enabler for economic empowerment, and it's also a skill that the training is a skill that opens avenues even for women. It's something they can easily do. They can be able to adapt to easily and continue with their lives, whether they are parents or they are just young mothers or they are still young and vulnerable. It's an avenue that gives them employability, especially when they are in refugee status. So that is one of the areas we are reaching young women. The other one is on agribusiness skills. We have an internship program for young women that empowers them with agribusiness skills. And we integrate in it some digital skills that help them to set up their own enterprises and also to increase their employability in the agribusiness sector. This is something that has really empowered them, and we are truly we are looking forward to even reaching more. And this is some area we are seeing impact not only in enhancing the health, but also in enhancing the economic abilities. Then since COVID-19, we initiated a program that is supporting the young women in the other sectors, the other pillars in Toolkit iSkills, that enables them to find another option for employability. So when COVID came, there was a challenge for some of them to get bread on the table, to get food on the table. So we partnered with the ISAHIT, and we are currently training the young women in skills such as annotation that gives them higher order skills that give them even better pay. So online jobs is another area that we are empowering the youth. So I'm going to request Rian to show us a video of one of the youth, the young women who has benefited from the construction sector pillar. And we just hear her story as we conclude. Thank you very much.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Martha Mwaigacho. Before niende training, Kenya ambacho nilikuwa nikifanya mtaani, nilikuwa nikihustle nilikuwa nikiuza viatu vya Kiswahili. So at that nilikuwa najihustle tu mwenyewe. Nijua na Toolkit kupitia Big Ship ambao inatoka Mikinani. Hao ndo walitu introduce kwa Toolkit. After that Toolkit ndo ikatupeleka NITA. Nikaitwa nikaenda Agol. Nilipoanza Agol, I got myself interested with scaffolding. So volunteer nianze scaffolding. Nikaanza scaffolding. I was the first lady. There was some challenges I used to pass through. Nilikuwa nikiambiwa nibebe materials, but kivyangu mimi nikajitia moyo nikasema no. Sitakuwa mtu wa kubeba materials. Nitakuwa mtu nataka kukua fundi. Right now I can go to 16 meters. I can walk. Ile jambo ningependa kuambia Toolkit ni asante sana Madam Jane, Madam Nyokabi and all staffs in Toolkit. Pali wamenitoa ni mbali na pali ninapoelekea Mungu ndo anayejua. I'm aiming to be the best woman scaffolding in Kenya. If they can give me that opportunity to be the best woman in Kenya, I am ready to do it. And I will not even let them down. I'm ready for everything.
Thank you very much. So these are some of the women that we are empowering. Even when they are in the construction sector, they have digital skills to empower them to start in their lives. Either they do the training for the job that they will get, or even if they will be setting their own enterprises, we get them the digital skills that enable them to start life in a better place, and also in a job that will give them more economic prospects. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that video. It's always really inspiring to see firsthand the impact that this work has. And for her to want to be the best woman scaffolder in Kenya is incredible. So I think we're all cheering for her. So now, Jessica, would you and Anne both turn on your cameras again, join me here so we can have a little bit more of a discussion together. I'm going to give you a second. There you are. Lovely. Great. So I wondered if in listening to each other and yes, she will just be the best scaffolder, full stop. Let's hope that that's true. We will have the worldwide best scaffolder, and we saw her here first from Kenya and then in the world. Great point, Essie. But as you listen to what each other is doing, I wonder if you saw either some intersections or some overlaps and maybe have questions for each other before we jump into other questions. I have a couple questions for you as well, but I want to give each of you space to comment or question what the other said. So did either of you, did anything strike you as you were listening that you wanted to comment or question on?
For me, it was more a reaction, and I was really happy that Anne shared that video about the stories, because I think when we do this type of projects, either it's very specific on skills development or more the empowerment side. There's a lot of intersections, and it becomes a lot about the stories about these girls and how this changes their lives, and just listening about how they feel about the interventions and being able to inspire others to be part of these interventions. I think it's at the end of the day why we do all of these projects. I was really happy to see that you share that, Anne.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I also just want to applaud Jessica for the work that they are doing on advancing gender equality, especially in the tech sector where women have to work extra hard to move and to be recognized. It was really absolutely amazing. I find it really, really inspiring to see the work that women are doing in the tech sector. One has to go an extra mile to get the recognition, but you are doing it so well and it's coming out really well. The impact is great. So I say kudos, Jessica, for the excellent, amazing work.
Lovely. I want to ask both of you, which, and I know that you've highlighted, so Anne, you have the example of Martha, who has been learning scaffolding, and Jessica, you have like the filter change, and I wonder if there are other sort of programs that you have seen that have really worked well in the environment with these young people, these young women, to give them tools. If there's maybe other points that you can highlight for us, things that have really worked well for you, because I'm going to come around to the other side of some of the barriers in a second. But first, how can we celebrate with you what you've seen in terms of programs that are really working? Like specific things. So Jessica, I'll come back to you first.
Yeah, one area that worked really well, and we actually didn't expect this to happen so fast at the very beginning, because we started Equality Tech just a little bit over a year ago, was the fact that girls coming from these workshops, they would actually ask us what happens next, and will ask us, can we get the modules? Can we translate them? Can we contextualize them to include other girls? These workshops are online, but can we modify them to actually reach girls that don't have the access, don't have the opportunity to come online and connect and have these conversations? There was a lot of initiative and a lot of just having that motivation to just spread the word and actually create a movement. And it's something that we thought was going to happen later on, but by providing that really safe space for them to discuss, for them to brainstorm and just inspire each other. And then really just actually asking the question, what do you need in order for you to create this movement? And they would ask, I need this, I need that. And then just kind of becoming those enablers and letting them be the leaders. So that was one story that I can highlight here.
That's super exciting. Thank you. And shows just that natural inclination to wanting to pass on what they've received to others, knowing that not everyone has those opportunities. That's really incredible. Thank you for that. And what about you? What are some other success stories that you've had?
Thank you so much. I just would like to continue with the story of the empowering the women to venture into an untapped areas. We all know that the construction sector is male dominated. So Toolkit has a new innovation in using technology to train welding, using welding AR and VR to train welding. So this is a gender friendly, it's women friendly, because we know that welding is mainly done by men, and the environment for welding is not very, very conducive, not only for the women, but also for the men, and it requires a lot of safety precautions. It's also very costly, but there's a new innovation that Toolkit we are implementing, and we are training welders using VR. And this is enabling them to master that skill just using a laptop, make their mistakes and get their confidence, and before they go to the practicals. And the one more thing is that the founder of Toolkit is Jane Muigai Campus. She's a lady. So just by being there, she's a role model and makes the women also feel confident that they can also do it. Thank you.
Wow, I love hearing this, that something like VR is training young people to do welding. I would never have thought that was possible, but it's incredible what technology can provide in a much safer environment. That's incredible. Great to hear. So on the other side, I'm going to come to you first, Anne, on this, and then to Jessica. But on the flip side, what are some of the barriers that you're seeing that have made this more difficult? I'm sure a lot of us can already imagine some of them, but perhaps something that you've seen that in fact, maybe other CSOs might be able to help you with. Yeah, I'll just leave it there, and you can share with us what you've seen and what you are hoping for to make things better in the future. So Anne.
Thank you so much. So when we look at some of our beneficiaries, actually all our beneficiaries are from marginalized backgrounds, and most of them, but for these initiatives that we have, they would never have had an opportunity. So most of them they dropped out of school, so their literacy levels are low. So we usually have to do some sensitization, and we also have a signature life skills course, which we would like to continue to digitize. We've already started the process, but we would work with others to digitize it. It's called My Individual Potential. It enables them to settle in and to unleash their full potential. And this is one area that enables them, despite their low literacy level, to get the confidence that they need, and also working with partners so that we can have more infrastructure, for example, smartphones and internet and other connectivity that is a challenge. So some of the challenges we've had is some youth beneficiaries, the young women, they've never used a smartphone before. Here we have an online course. So that's one of the areas that we would partner with, and also reach more women in terms of their literacy levels, and also the infrastructure, so we can reach them where they are. Thank you.
Great, what a great point. Yeah, the infrastructure is important. Jessica, how would you answer that question about some of the challenges that you've had and what could help from other CSOs?
Yeah, I think echoing a lot of Anne's points, I think the infrastructure and be able to meet girls where they are has been a big challenge for us. We started this during the pandemic and the very beginnings of the pandemic. So we started with a really small group of girls that we knew had the access, the basic digital literacy levels. But if we want to really reach the impact that we want this project to be and meet girls where they are, being able to, you know, actually integrate this into all our programs, and plan's main program participants are also from marginalized backgrounds, is taking into account that the modules that we include need to cover digital literacy and the basic digital skills, being able to become really innovative and how we bring, you know, digital training into rural areas that don't have access to internet. So we've been, you know, researching other projects in plans, such as the nomad schools that bring tablets to different areas of the country and be able to give access to girls and young women that don't have it. So right now we're trying to innovate, and how can we bring this program offline, but still not losing that skills development, innovation, ideation part of the program.
Sounds like a challenge. Before we come to some of the questions that were shared around the registration, I really appreciate the question that Sai, I believe, put into this before, and that was sharing how you measure impact. And I think this, for some, is really an important question, because the individual stories are incredible. But then again, how do we know the impact that's being made on a larger scale? And so could each of you share just a bit about how Plan International and how Toolkit are measuring that impact? Go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're taking a step back to reflect on all the work that's been done. And we're going to be partnering with external organizations to do an actual evaluation of what worked, what didn't, but also support us in developing an actual framework that has, you know, really strong objectives, KPIs that will help us to measure that impact beyond the stories, and taking into account that this project is becoming more of a girls' movement that is rapidly growing. Like, how can we track that impact? So right now, the stage where we are is documenting the lessons learned, working on the evidence, and really, you know, taking a pause to actually put all these frameworks in place. So I don't actually have a concrete good case practice answer, but these are like the next steps questions that we're also asking ourselves at this stage of the project.
Yeah, that's great. The real place that you're in is important to know about too. All right, thank you. Anne, what about you?
Thank you. I just add something in addition to what Jessica has highlighted, just around the behavior change, focusing on areas that the impact is focused in terms of their entry behavior, and what are the empowerment in terms of the literacy levels, in terms of the social impact. And we have had also some of them sharing stories of how they are now moved from, they have now built, set up a business for their family. Others have even built a small shelter, and for a better shelter for their families just from the income that they are earning. So we focus most of it on around the behavior change, and just getting the case studies, and also in addition to the balance scorecard and all, we have the behavior change as our main focus. Thank you.
Great. Several of the questions that we've had that came in with the registration are covering some similar things, and specifically about reaching women and girls where, as you've both talked about, infrastructure and digital literacy, but in places that have lower internet resources and connectivity. What's being done, and what in fact needs to be done? How because there's so many people who are here from other CSOs, how can this be an opportunity for other CSOs to become aware of what might need to happen for greater access for those women, those more marginalized communities, because of connectivity issues? Anne, would you like to address this first?
Yeah, thank you very much. What I would say is partnerships, and a lot of flexibility. Because what we have done is in like, for example, when COVID came, we had a program sponsored by the Safaricom Foundation, and the youth that we were reaching, we needed to reach them with the training. And immediately the partnership with the technology company provided 70 of them with the devices. So we were able to reach more just from that partnership, where 70 of them got devices that they never had before. Then we have the institutions that our training partners, aside from the training partners, we have other training entities, so that we encourage the youth to use the training entities that are closest by, and they can find the facilities. And we also have partnerships where we bring them together and they are able to come, and we provide our own internet. So for that particular day, they have access to the internet, and then we are leveraging now on how to empower the institutions we are working with. So the partnerships has enabled us to reach more youth, and the women in particular. We work with the training partners and find out where they are at, and we empower them to also reach out. So it helps, it's like a ripple effect. So that's one thing that we have found has worked. And aside from that, there is the creativity and innovation and being flexible, so that instead of having a purely online course, we have now hybrid, where we also facilitate and also do the training for the ICT instructors in those institutions. So we did a training, and they also are empowered to reach even better and reach even more. So those are areas that I could say, but the key has been the partnerships and the flexibility and innovation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I imagine that there's a significant number of these companies, these for-profit companies, who want to also make an impact in these communities and don't always know how. And so they need the leadership from the CSOs to say, hey, this is what you can provide that we don't have the resources for, but you do. And I imagine that's also true for things like the VR for training welding. Because that would take an incredible amount of work to set up, but at the same time, be quite a phenomenal program to give back into those communities. Okay, great. Thank you, Anne. Jessica, what would you like to add to this about how to reach into more of those marginal communities?
Agreeing with Anne in terms of like the first part is partnerships, and really being creative about how you can envision these partnerships. One of the most amazing projects I saw a couple of years back was partnering with the local radios to provide digital literacy and skills development. So it was a technology project that used radio, and each module had homeworks and had different things that they had to do at home. But it was using radio because none other channel was reaching those particular communities. And it was so successful that modules kept being added on. And at the end, they had a contest, and it was all offline, just using the radio as that communication channel. Sometimes when we need to innovate, it doesn't necessarily have to be, go all the way to artificial intelligence, what's happening next, but sometimes it's looking at what we already have and what channels are already there, and being able to work with those local partners. And the second part, I think, is also being able to take a step back or a pause and listen to the people you're working with. Specifically in our case, to be able to listen to girls and young women and actually understand how they want to use the technology, what are their needs, what are the barriers, because if you are able to understand where they are, then you're able to be able to come up with solutions and what type of partners do you need. So if the case is, actually having access to gadgets for them being able to build their skills, then you can like look for those types of partnerships. But if it's more on the Wi-Fi, I've seen a lot of innovation on mobile Wi-Fi that is powered by, you know, solar energy. So I think being able to understand where your audience is and where your users are, you're able to adapt those interventions.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that ties in closely with what you said before about, as these girls were learning from you, they were already thinking about how to adapt and how to take what they learned to someone else. And I think sometimes we underestimate the importance of listening to hear what they need and where it could come from, because it could surprise us. So wonderful. There's a really interesting question here that came from Jonathan in Germany, and it's a big question. So if you feel overwhelmed by it and are not sure how to answer, I'm going to say from the start, you don't have to have all the answers, but I'm curious if your experiences give you some wisdom and insight that you can share. And that is, he says they have an existing large online community that's predominantly composed of very privileged individuals, which is the experience that a lot of us have, that we're not encountering so many of these people from more marginalized communities. And so what techniques exist to redirect and expand that community to become more equitable, more inclusive, sharing in that diversity of backgrounds? And again, if this feels like, oh, it's a bigger question than you can tackle, I totally understand. But I'm curious if you have insights or thoughts on or experiences that can shed some light on just any ways that you've seen this expand. I think that's a really good term. Anne, I see you nodding. I'm going to come over to you first and hear, what would you say to that question? She's laughing and not unmuting herself. Does that mean that you
maybe handle it in a small way, and maybe yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we're having connectivity issues, but we can hear you now, so go ahead.
Really packed. I will handle it in a very small way, and maybe, yes, yeah. So whenever there is a need, there is a drive. So it would be to find out there are any needs that would be driving the reach, and always, anytime there is a drive, there will be more people coming in, because passion comes with the drive of need. And how can technology bring out those? And these days, technology enables a lot of collaboration. Probably they may be a new geographical interaction with other locations that exposes them to things that are different and makes them appreciate the things that are not there. Or if somebody has internet, if they come across somebody without internet, that will be a game changer for them. And it will bring conversation and bring a lot of things that can happen. And it could be the internet, but there is a lot of risks with it. So there is always something that, so long as there's a training, and a needs assessment, and to look for the pain points that each of them is achieving, and how can technology come up, and what collaboration can be done, who else can be brought on board, and who can bring others on board. I don't know if I got it right, but I said it's huge. Only I can
huge.
tackle in a very small way.
Absolutely. And that's, I appreciate that. And that's the very best that I could hope for as an answer, something small that can be done. Thank you. Jessica, what about you? How would you answer that?
I think representation goes a long way, and feeling that you're gonna be heard. I think it all starts with selecting a couple number of champions, because sometimes the organic strategy or the organic efforts don't necessarily work. So being very intentional about inviting specific number of people are going to be bringing that diversity aspect. So having a group of champions that can also give feedback on the topics that are being discussed, on the agenda that's being discussed, because that might be the barrier that's not allowing for a different group of people to join the conversation. So having that representation and that diversity, and having these people involve and invite other people, and slowly start changing how that group looks like. So I think that would be the place where I personally would start. I've seen that in me as a participant, like it can be intimidating when that the conversation is driven a different way, but once at least you're going to be seen and heard, because if there is someone else there that it's providing that space, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right. We have come to the point that we need to wrap it up, which of course is always sad, because I, for one, can say I really appreciate hearing from both of you, the stories, the joys and the celebrations that you have as you're seeing results and impact in your communities. And so that's always exciting to hear. So thank you for sharing your stories. And I hope that all of you who are joining us, who are listening, are also inspired, and that this, maybe specifically, I'm really impacted by this idea of partnerships and what that can look like, that maybe all of you start thinking a little bit broader outside of your current partnership zone, to figure out how that might help broaden and expand even your impact where you are and what you're doing. So yeah, there's always people who want to get involved and don't know how. And if you do know how, tell them. So yes, that's where we're going to wrap it up. But I really want to say thank you to Jessica and Anne. Thank you for taking your time to talk with us today and share what's happening in your worlds. And we wish the very best for you in the continuation of your projects. And I am going to be thinking about Martha, the best scaffolder in the world. And I'm going to be cheering for her from Berlin. I think she's won a lot of fans through hearing her story. And I would love to say, hearing these stories is always the most inspiring thing, and it's great to know. So any ways that you can share stories online in particular is really welcome. So thank you for doing that. Yes, we need to wrap up. So thank you so much to our international sign interpreters and captioner for their work. I know it's often very difficult to keep up with different voices and accents and things. So well done. And thank you so much for making it possible. Thank you to you who've joined us from around the world. We're really grateful that you joined us today, and all of those of you who will be watching the recording. Thanks for spending some time with us. Further resources from all of the panelists' organizations will be sent to the participants who attended today's session. That'll come next week. You can also get in touch with either Anne or Jessica, and you can send an email to Ryan Stanton at icscenter.org, and you can do that. The next digital dialogue will be happening on Thursday, the 10th of November. It's not the first Thursday, it'll be the second Thursday in November, so mark your calendars now. And there is going to, oh yes, so there's yeah, I thought that was something else. Anyway, I should never look at the chat when I'm trying to talk. There will be a link on the screen or in the chat. Ryan has a quick poll that he would like you to fill out if you have the time and the energy. It will just take a few moments. Oh, there it is. There's the poll or quiz. So please give us your feedback on that. But beyond that, thank you so much for joining us. And on behalf of the International Civil Society Center, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.